Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show, live from the Ants and Offer Studios. Welcome to Monday. Can't win the week if you don't win Monday. Let's get going. Lots to get to. Senator Lois Kolkhorst is going to join us via phone later on, talking about some new mental health initiatives and a brand new facility for children. So we're glad you're here. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show on the No Bull Network, Magic 95.9, the Mothership, also Facebook and YouTube. If you're there, like and follow, subscribe, help us grow the show. And Wade and Carter Weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerlam Hay Feed and Ranch Services. Stop on by for everything you need for your home, your garden, pests, pets, lawn care. This heat's really stressing things out, so make sure you're getting to Deerlam and taking care of everything you need to take care of.
77 degrees under partly cloudy skies in Victoria, Texas, heading to a high today of 98. It looks like it'll be sunny all day. I got up early this morning, Ash, and I took Riker, the Wonder Dog, for a walk. And we sat around for a while and then left the house about 5. And it was still like almost 70 degrees here at that time, but it will quickly heat up. It's only 77 now, but it'll heat up quick, and it'll heat up hotter than the Oakland Athletics or the California, wherever, the Vegas Athletics.
Yeah.
Patrick Strauss says the Louisville weather is 60 with a high today of 80. That's beautiful.
That is nice.
Is Louisville at a much higher, I know it's further from the sea, but is it a much higher level than Texas? Like Denver's 5,000 feet. We're like 4 feet.
Yeah.
I don't know what sea level is to Victoria. Probably like 34.
I think it's 200 feet, something like that.
Is that right?
I think so.
So Louisville could be, 1,000 feet, I guess, Good morning, Bruce Woods.
No, 95 feet, less than that. Victoria's 95 feet.
Wow.
But apparently ranges to about 148 feet, according to AI this morning. So thank you to the data center that's putting that together.
Yeah, I listened to a guy this morning talking about data centers, and he said, when there's a misconception out there, there's a misunderstanding when people talk about data centers, they forget that the cloud is really just an assemblage of data centers. That's all it is a bunch of big servers in a room. Stephanie Connie, Ricky Champagne King, and Bobby Leister, the first 3 in studio today. Jordan Glass is here. Marvin Mickus Jr., Mark Kurt, Scott Snow, Patrick Strauss, Cody Bauman. Then Linda, Mark Zapata, Rena Shear. Good morning, ma'am. Junior, John Anderson, Tammy McElroy Williams, Bruce Woods. Great group. Monty Howard. Yep. What a great group. Yeah, Tammy Williams says first Friday night lights will be brutal. Hopefully there'll be a breeze. Yep.
Louisville's at 466, but gets to about 900 feet in some parts of that area. So there you go.
Cody Bauman says 148 feet is the Texan off of 59. So
thanks to the overpass.
That's the high ground, is out there where Cliff Thomas lives, out there on the ranch. Yeah, that part of the land is. And that makes sense. If you think about it, it really does go. There's Tim McKeeling. It really does go downhill, right?
Yeah.
You go west or south of there, it really does kind of go downhill.
Well, that's why the baseball stadium rarely floods. It takes, a historic flood for Riverside to actually be covered in water, because it actually is the highest point on that riverbed when you come down the hill.
Sure.
So
I know it's just engineering and, just engineering. But it's always been interesting to me that when the park floods at its worst, there is just like a little edge that goes all the way around where the pump house is now, that used to be the city's water supply pump house. That does not flood. I mean, it's just high enough by design, obviously.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they brought in a bunch of dirt and built that up.
Yeah, but you weren't, it wasn't just observation. There was masons out there surveying things and making sure they had it lined out just right, but it's lined out just right. Pretty amazing. What do you got? What do you make of it? That's what I
Well,
want to hear.
Carmelo Anthony's request for a new trial was denied over the weekend, and I think good. The new judge didn't take very long after the trial judge was recused from that situation. But I mean, a one-page ruling didn't take him long. Basically said the jury's guilty verdict stands, and we remain confident in the process.
I watched an interview, and they had people talking about this, and a gentleman said, and he may be absolutely correct. He goes, well, as you delve further into the facts about the case, there's more to this. They pointed out that the young man, Austin, somebody I think was his name, that was
Austin Matthews,
the kid that was killed.
Yeah.
Said, did you know that it was either him and his brother or him and his best friend had a history of some racial, innuendo, some racial issues with other kids? And
yeah, when they were like sixth grade. I mean, it's not like it was like yesterday.
But I think my thought is I kept coming back to the fact, and maybe life isn't really this simple, but I kept coming back to the fact that had Carmelo Anthony simply exited the tent where he was not welcomed for whatever reason, there was nobody's life that nobody needed to die over the fact that Carmelo Anthony was somehow perceived to be disrespected. He should have left. I keep hearing in my head, touch me and see what happens.
Yeah. Austin Metcalf, thank you.
Yeah, and Austin Metcalf, apparently obliged him, and then a decision was made. And the decision was not, Carmelo Anthony has never said, at that moment I feared for my life and I had to defend myself. The reality is he pulled a knife that should not have been on those premises or on his person, and he stabbed a kid to death who he should not have been in a confrontation with. Now, if you take out the whole black and white thing, which is the only reason this is even in the news.
Yep.
That's
and it's a couple of high school kids. If it was a couple of high school kids, it would still be in the news. But because Carmelo Anthony's black and Austin Metcalf is white, that's the whole reason the whole country even cares.
And because it fits the stereotypical narrative of the black guy committing the crime against the white guy, everybody's searching for the angle where it's the white guy's fault. Well, they were being a bully to him. Well, lots of kids intermingle in other teams' tents. Bro, you were told to leave, and you decided that being told to leave was worth someone dying over. That the finality of what happened, the situation did not merit that finality.
Well, and some of the stuff that came out over the weekend there was a deal to keep some testimony out of there and evidence from being presented on both sides. So they didn't, so Metcalf wasn't painted as that racist, and Carmelo Anthony wasn't painted as a rather violent, abusive, and controlling person that it turns out he may have been.
Right, they show him really handsome. They don't show the pictures of him with guns. And stuff.
But apparently he had threatened his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend. So that begs the question for me: what did the school know, and why didn't the school take any action on this? Because supposedly she had reported to the school that he was threatening her. But was he such a good athlete? He gave him a chance to win a track meet that they didn't even bother taking action. I mean, those are the types of things that if school officials knew he had threatened another student,
true,
should have been some action taken.
Ricky King says, how come no one ever says Carmelo Anthony was a racist also? I don't disagree with that, but Ricky, as you know, here's me and Ash, two white men of great privilege. If we say that, then we're just racist. So we can't hardly point out the fact that Carmelo Anthony, we said it at the time. My knee jerk at the time was not empathetic. It was like, well, what are you doing there? Nobody wanted you there. And now you've gone and stabbed some kid and killed him. Oh, by the way, you shouldn't have even had a weapon on the premises.
Well, how stupid is our society right now?
That big a knife. It wasn't that big a knife. It was big enough to kill the kid.
How stupid is society right now? You got a bunch of people trying to defend Carmelo Anthony's actions. You have a bunch of people jumping to the defense of this lunatic who killed her 3 kids.
She's never denied killing them.
No. Tried to kill herself afterwards and ended up paralyzing herself. And now they're all saying, well, her husband shoved her off the roof. And
that does make you wonder. There is some logic that says that he threw her out the window. And
he wasn't home.
Hey, I mean, if she did slice the kid's necks, I wish he would have gone downstairs, packed her back up the stairs, and thrown her out again. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, good riddance. But there is a possibility that one of his main defenses was that he came home, he found her in the yard, and that she told him, I killed the kids. Then emergency medical personnel said, when we got there, she was unresponsive. I doubt very seriously if she had a conversation with him. Well, I mean, one way or the other.
Well, regardless, he wasn't home, and she's the one that was tried and killed the kids. Now it's, what is it, the sentencing, right? That's what they're trying to get to now?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they're retrying this case during this part, it's just ridiculous.
You know, and Ash, something that I'll call you out on, if you will. Linda Chris says, it all starts at home. Why aren't Carmelo Anthony's parents on trial for allowing their kid to have a knife at the track meet? If it were a gun, the parents would be responsible. See, I agree with Linda on this, but just a minute ago, in an uncharacteristic transfer, Ash tried to put a little bit of the blame back on the school because, like, in general, we're like, we don't want the school to raise our kids. But you made a good point. Like, well, did the school know that this kid had a history of violence? Did the school turn a blind eye because he was pretty good in the 200?
I'm not saying that they should have, and I guess her murder trial is in the final stages, right? My mistake on that one, because I really don't care. She killed 3 kids and is trying to blame PTSD or postpartum depression. You know what?
Yeah,
too bad. I got no sympathy for you. I just don't.
Brooke Shields, they got meds for that.
I got sympathy for the 3 kids that no longer have a life, and I can't even imagine what they were thinking at the last moments when the person who's supposed to nurture you through life is squeezing the life out of you. Come on.
Yeah.
And you get a bunch of people coming to her defense, and well, he's got a girlfriend and a wife. Well, 3 years later, how long is he supposed to sit around and wait for?
Right.
You know, come on.
Tammy Williams also says, hey, Carmelo's parents are too busy buying a house with his GoFundMe money.
Well, and his attorneys are going to appeal that to the Fifth Circuit Court too, of appeals, that decision not to reopen the trial, because it's cha-ching, cha-ching. That's all they care about. They're a bunch of, in my opinion, they're a bunch of ambulance chasing dirtbags too. Getting it all out there today.
There you have it. Ambulance chasing dirtbags.
But
that's slang for attorney.
Well, this Judge Michael Chitties, this seems to be he's the best one of the bunch, because he said nope, no needs to retry this one. Carmelo Anthony didn't want to take the stand. Nothing wrong with that advice. Happens all the time.
Sure, especially when you're guilty.
But where are we in society right now that we're defending a murderer? We're defending a mom who killed her 3 kids. This is the crazy part, and people just think this is normal.
Some of the black community is making it about race. And they're like, they're not outraged that there was a murder. They're outraged that this black kid who was treated poorly was somehow, unfairly accused of murder for using it. Well, they said it was a Swiss Army knife. It wasn't even like a murder weapon. Well, it was for that kid. It was used with malice to inflict grave harm on another person. So I think in a town like Victoria, Texas, you end up with outrage, right? Like, I don't care what color the kid is. He shouldn't have done it.
Nope.
But I do agree with you 100%. If they were both white, this ain't making the news. If they were both black, I'm not sure it would have even made the newspaper. Just another day, but the fact that a black kid had to kill a white kid while he was in the wrong place with a weapon, you know. By the way, Bruce Wood says Sharia law will put an end to all of this nonsense. Many of you may have seen the post that I made over the weekend. They said like in I think it's 2015. There were like, I'm making up a number. You can go to my Facebook page and look it up. There were like 12 mosques in all of the UK. Now there's 1,700. You don't think this is an invasion? Do you really not? Do you not understand how the Islamic community is using our Constitution to our detriment? Our embracing our novel idea of freedom of religion is allowing them to get footholds in your communities? Interesting.
Remember? Yeah.
25 years since 9/11. 25 years since 9/11. Everybody's already forgotten.
Well, remember when that lady drove her kids into the lake in North Carolina?
Yeah.
There was no sympathy. There was no sympathy for her at the level that there is for Lindsay Clancy.
Right.
And I dare say it, if she was an overweight, unattractive woman, there'd be no sympathy for her either.
No, that's right. She's photogenic. She looks like the girl next door. And as a result, people want to bring, you know, like new awareness to postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tammy Williams adds, when Obama became president, the victim card became standard. It seems like a certain color can commit a crime and be a victim of their 200-year-ago slavery. It's always our fault. I think if I even go a step further, as you see the Islamist problem that is in our country, and as you address the fact that I'm not talking about Mexico, I'm talking about other Latin American countries, as you deal with the brown issue in our country, many of whom are still here illegally, the black issues are way, way down the list of pertinence. I dare say that aside from their role as Americans, nobody cares about Black Lives Mattering. They're just Americans, just like us. And more educated Black American, especially young men, are saying, wait a minute, what have the Democrats ever done for me? And the truth is, that's on the road to the reality that what has either party ever done for any of us? No matter your color, if you're looking to the federal government to do something for you, you're barking up the wrong tree. They're all getting rich. You got Bernie Sanders talking about diversity. He lives in a neighborhood that's 92% white. You know, Oprah Winfrey lives in a community that's 78% white. Quit waiting for these hypocrites to lead you to the promised land. Bruce Wood says, did you see there were 50-plus attacks in southern Thailand yesterday? Islam is driving out the Thai military from their own territory. Now it's their territory. Yeah. Callie Frommey says, you mentioned that Carmelo was disrespected. We hear that a lot. To be respected, don't you have to be respected and respectful to start with? Yeah, respectful would be leaving the tent when you were asked to leave the tent. And I dare say that even if they drop an N-bomb on you, leave the tent. You still don't stab somebody in the neck or in the chest or wherever it was. Linda Chris says, if you listen to the news, the Muslims already own our country. all the videos of the Muslim politicians, if you talk to real American people, that's not the case. But you know what? Enough American people aren't talking about the fact that there is a play at hand, a long-term play at hand, where the Islamic community is trying to take over your community.
Well, that's what the congressman out of Arizona says. There's too many Muslims in this country that may not believe in the radical Islamism that is taking over, or the political Islam, the theology of it, but they just don't. They're not speaking out. They're not taking a stand. Partially, they fear for their own lives or their businesses. They'll be doxxed because that's the great thing of the Democrat Party that has been going on for 20 years. Don't forget all the doxing that went on when people came out as a Trump supporter. Remember that?
Absolutely.
In 2016, they tried to ruin your life, the Democrats, if you publicly supported Donald Trump, and that's what they're afraid of.
Very true.
Muslims won't say anything because they're afraid that their businesses will be boycotted. They'll be shunned in their own community.
Does it not give you pause at all that we're 2 years from the next presidential election and we really don't have anybody that you would call a front runner for the Democrat side?
I don't know that we have a front runner on the Republican side either, even though, the Republicans are a little further ahead. They've at least announced that Houston will host the 2028 Republican National Convention, but the Democrats still don't have a city.
You can still see J.D. Vance winning, Marco Rubio winning, even Rand Paul winning. Tell me somebody that you could see, anybody. You think Pete Buttigieg can get elected president? Do you think Gavin Newsom can get elected president? I think they're unelectable people. Saw where Gavin passed some kind of law the other day. I don't know what it was. I just remember it was being like, yep, if you think that's stupid, see what California just did.
Well, and apparently I don't know, because Paramount and I guess Warner were talking. Now he's mad at Paramount for some reason. I don't know. California and Seattle are driving businesses out of those two areas. It's amazing.
Let's do this. Let's take a quick break in preparation for our phone call, and that way we can get a break under our belt. And folks, first of all, thank you so much for driving safely this weekend. Those of you that needed Allen's Wrecker service, I know you were smart enough to dial 578-6300. Allen is your go-to tow-to. They will take care of you. All the way down to if your car gets too hot, you need a battery, you need a jump, Allen's will help you. Went Services, Went Electrical. There are problems. There are challenges for the grid. Now is an ideal time to add a whole house Generac generator to your repertoire. You should have a Went generator for all your electrical needs. Paravita Wellness and the Vita Cafe. Yesterday was a big Sunday brunch at the Vita Cafe. It's always well received. Very light, trendy, healthy fare.
Our brunches are doing really well.
Yeah, no, Erica's doing a great job. And you can get into Paravita Wellness and get healthy meals with all your macros, no gluten, low cal, low carb. Or you can also go the other way. Get into Veracruz today for the best Mexican food in town, the Tex-Mex that'll make you sit there and sweat at your table while you eat the super hot peppers. Get in for the best queso, guacamole, salsa, fresh chips. The full menu today and tomorrow, Sans Caldo. Veracruz, the best Tex-Mex on the planet. USA Foundation Repair, got a pier and beam house, and it's leaning a little. Your doors don't close the way they should. Your driveway's cracked. Your garage floor is unlevel.
Cracking the drywall.
All those problems. They can solve all those problems. Give them a call at 578-HOME. 578-HOME. Why don't we do a first date Bank of Louise Astros update while we wait for our phone call, which is great. No problem waiting for the phone call.
We have to.
SERP. I was
Depressing.
there. I was there. Really a good time. I highly recommend it. You can go. Kendall found some seats that we never went to. We went and stood. You know, when you're looking at Deadaway Center Field, you see Budweiser out there. Well, there's a bar up above that's open to the public. Super nice guy named Sherman there that's been with ARA for 15 years. And we'll come back to that. I'm going to answer this phone call. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I am great. How are y'all doing this morning?
We're great. Give
We're
me a
doing
second.
good.
We're joined now by our state senator, the Honorable Lois Kolkhorst, and we appreciate your time. Ash and I had a kind of a three-way email going with Andrea last week, and that went very well, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day to reach out to us. We wanted to talk to you today about whatever you want to talk about and the Terrell Center for Youth. I was most encouraged to see your press release on that. And why don't you just take a moment, ma'am, and tell folks about the Terrell Center for Youth?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me on, Wade and Carter. Y'all do such a great job in covering all things important to the Crossroads region, and we appreciate you. I'll just say that the Terrell Center for Youth is been a long time in the making. If I could go back and give a story historically, you know, we've always struggled in the state of Texas, and I think every state struggles with what's called children without placement. In that world of foster care, they're called CWAP children, but it's really, that stands for children without placement. And what happens when a person, and this really does happen, where a person literally will walk into one of our CPS offices and relinquish their child, or a child has to be removed from a home because of uh, harm, suspected harm, something, that our mandatory reporters have teachers may have said, I've seen this child and I think they're being physically abused, so forth. And so a child has to be taken, and that could be from any age, really, from 0 to 18, 17, technically. And when you take them, you're hoping you have a placement for them. And we have wonderful foster parents out there. We have great what we call residential treatment centers when a child is really needs therapy. But there was a point in time where, and there will be at times, where somebody says, no, that child has too much intense behavioral problems. We can't handle them. Or that child has gone from center to center, from foster home to foster home, and just people just finally say, we can't handle this person. And so they end up in children in our CWAP scenario. And quite honestly, way back when I was your state senator, they used to sleep in offices. I don't know if you remember, children sleeping in CPS offices, right? Those were the children without placement. I finally said, no more sleeping in the office.
Amen.
So what they would do, though, and I thought, well, by me passing that bill, which was way back in, I think, 2019, 2017, it was actually 2017, and they would find a place for them, right? Well, not so much. They were, keeping them in hotels when they couldn't find a placement. And that led to a peak, I cannot kid y'all, children without placement of 417 in 2021, July of
Wow.
2021. And so I assembled, and when I say I assembled, I mean everyone from the governor's office to the lieutenant governor's office, the speaker of the House. I had the Texas Department of Emergency Management in that meeting, and I told, and of course, Health and Human Services, Department of Family and Protective Services, TJJD, Texas Juvenile Justice Department, and I said, y'all, we're meeting quietly. I didn't do a press release on it or anything, of course. And I said, you bring your lawyers. I want everyone in the room, and there ended up being about 45 people in the room, because I'm not going to take no for an answer. And we started to try to find, what were the problems. And I did find that the agencies weren't talking. So you had one group that was in charge of mental health, and then the other group of finding a placement and in the mental hospitals and everything. Nobody was talking. Nobody was talking. So I said, that's where we start. One thing led to another, and we were able to get children without placement down to about, it got down to about it would consistently hang between 50 to 40, right
That's
in there. And I
fantastic.
said, yeah, we really did push that number down. True confession, we were under a federal court mandate, a federal judge right there in Corpus Christi, Judge Jack. While I agreed with her on many things, she had gotten to where we couldn't do it. No residential treatment center. No one wanted to take a child because they would lose their license. So we were working on a court case to get out from underneath that, and we did. And then this last session, House Bill 109, we identified that at times there are going to be children that need such intense care that potentially no one will take them. And so I worked really hard for a fiscal conservative approach to this. And what we found was that there was some room on the Terrell State Hospital, a building that we could rehab. Put about, it's a lot of money. I mean, we put 35 million into it, and we were able to create this setting for them. And so we did the ribbon cutting on it. It's up to 30 children, and it's between the ages of 13 and 17. Those are absolutely the hardest to place.
It touches my heart. I know you and Mr. Jim have, you've got Lois, Kate, and Jake, and I'm a parent, Ash is a parent.
Yep.
And I'm just like, it's just so sad. And God bless our foster parents, and some of them get a bad rap, and I liken them to the Catholic priest. They all, if you're not careful, they all end up being the punchline, even though 99% of them are just great people. And you find yourself being like, what a heart for kids. Ash is really huge at pet adoptions and no kill facilities and all these things. How much more tragic is it when a child doesn't have a home? And from 13 to 17, it's like, well, if we're going to adopt, I'd rather adopt a baby. These kids have too much baggage. And if you're not careful, they just get lost in the system.
Well, that leads to my question for the senator. How does a facility like this remove that baggage so these kids can be placed in a home so they know a loving and nurturing environment for their final stages of childhood?
Brent, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it is one of the saddest stories. There were a lot of tears in the room last Thursday. I quoted some scripture from Matthew 25, and Jesus literally says, the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I spent a lot of time going around and meeting. They're called PDAs or psychological. They're the assistants for the psychiatrist and people. I met the custodians. I met everyone there, and there's such hope in that building because these are the children that literally they've been removed from their family. Many of them have been trafficked, sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused. I mean, these children have, if I told you the stories, it would make you cry about the stories of these children. And I mean, they need the most intense help. And the goal is to have them there to get the care that they need so that they leave and can go and live a life, a future. They have hope for tomorrow. And that word hope kept resonating over and over and over again. And I love to have heard that. And I'll tell you, all of Texas wins.
Amen.
When we restore these youth and give them hope for tomorrow and for the rest of their lives.
Yes, ma'am. I realize what happened, folks, especially those of you on Magic 95.9, the FM mothership. We're visiting with our senator, State Senator Lois Kolkhorst. And, ma'am, the reason I was silent is Ash was asking you a question, but he's actually in Oklahoma. We're on a split screen, and you didn't hear his question, but his question was this. How does this facility, specifically the one in Terrell, how does it help children move forward from that unadoptability or loosen
Right.
their baggage? What is that
Right.
particular facility going to do for those kids?
Yeah. So it's the intense therapy. And again, what was happening, Ash, was that they were sitting, and I say this in the most sincere way, they were sitting in hotels getting none, getting no therapy. And, we would get them schooling, but it was, each child was different. And we would have one-on-one with some of our CPS workers. Now, these are workers that weren't trained to do that. These are case workers that should have been out in the field. And so this vicious cycle, and then we would find a placement somewhere that someone would take them. And then, like the example was Hayden, that the commissioner for the Department of Family and Protective Services had given, had been placed 50 times in 5 years,
How does that
and
kid,
would end up getting removed. Had, like the place would say, we can't do this anymore. They might be runners. They might be, they may harm other children. They may act out. And so this facility is specifically designed for that. And the boys will be on one wing, the girls will be on the other, of course. The Terrell Independent School District is involved and they will be doing the schooling, and they'll be allowed to do school activities at Terrell High School. So I felt really good about this, that you get them, you move them toward normalcy. Now, many of these children are suicidal threats, and so there's a lot we have to stay on top of this. But the reason having it on the Terrell State Hospital is a huge campus. It's over 150 acres. Much like what's going on in Victoria, we are building a new state hospital there. There'd been one there. It's the second oldest state hospital in the state of Texas. The first one was built in Austin, the second one in Terrell in 1895, I believe it was. So
1885. But let me blow your mind. You talk about
1885.
the world that we live in, the politically correct world we live in, and in some ways it's so much better. But you talk about what you're doing and what you've helped foster, no pun intended, to be inclusive, to grow these children. I thought about
Yeah.
my own. Dawn and I have an 18-year-old. Today's his first day of college at A&M Victoria. And thank you so much
Oh,
for your
yay.
tireless work in that effort. You and Sheriff
Yay. Brett,
Louderback
that
do
makes
great
my
work.
heart so happy.
Us
Oh my
too.
gosh, girl.
But he's got a home and faith and a church, and
Yep,
these kids don't have it, you
they
know?
don't.
And I look
They've
at
been,
this, it's the interesting thing to me is the state hospital was opened in 1885, and it was
1885.
originally known as the North Texas Lunatic Asylum.
Hmm.
And you've helped turn it into a place that fosters love. And I think that
Well,
is phenomenal.
I I have to tell y'all something. Terrell is not a very big town. It's east of Dallas, and one of the things that I found was there are many employees there that live in Terrell, in and around that city. Again, a city probably about the size of Victoria. It's growing because Dallas keeps growing. But I will say this: there was so much, and I say positive pride. The Bible tells us about pride, being sinful. No, this was like, I am so happy to work here. I want to work here. This is something that I've wanted to do, because I ask each one of them, why'd you choose this? And the other thing that we're doing is, for everybody listening on the show, we've invested your dollars. The legislature has invested your dollars in getting facilities to get people that need the help. For example, at Terrell, we are now, the original 1885 building did burn down, right? And so many moons. I think it was in the early 1900s. It's been rebuilt, but the older hospital, we are rebuilding a brand new hospital with, I think it's 358 beds,
Wow.
and which is much bigger than the facility we're going to be building in Victoria. But I walked after that. I toured the construction zone. It is going to be something. It is going to be very special. It's going to be it's got a gymnasium in it. It's got ways that we can heal people, and I'm excited about that. I really think that we're on our way to a better chapter in Texas history where we have facilities. When you hit that mental block, I mean, like, we know people that have
Sure.
psychosis, who have had crisis, and they have to get help. And the goal is that they're not a long stay. The goal is that make we have the ability to heal them and to let them go back out in society and be productive and live the life that God meant for them. And so there in Victoria, look, we got some great things going on in the Crossroads region. In Victoria, we've got the mental health hospital that we broke ground on, and it's moving along. That's going to be a 60-bed facility. And number one, it's so needed for that region, but it's not only going to be that region. I mean, it's going to serve a lot of people all over Texas, but specifically after working with sheriffs all these years, from every sheriff in the region, Sheriff Marr before him, T. Michael O'Connor, um, so many of the sheriffs in the area saying to me, we have to have a place to to we have to have a facility closer to us. And honestly, that facility is a culmination of meetings with community leaders and those local law enforcement, uh, that I was able to, and God blessed me to be chair of Health and Human Services when Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called me and said, I've been traveling the state. We have a mental, like, I hear from the county judges, I hear from the sheriffs that we need to do something. You're going to be in charge of building the plan, $3.5 billion, get it done. And I was so grateful to to Governor Patrick for letting me do that. And that's when I said, well, we're going to do one in the Crossroads region. We're going to do one in Victoria. And
Well,
Ben Zeller's done a great job.
Ben's done a great job. Yes, ma'am. We spend a lot of time with Sheriff Marr, and he'll tell you. And Justin Marr is a kind-hearted guy, but he's a boots on the ground law enforcement officer, and he's very much practical and just says, look, there are people that by necessity are in my jail who
Yep.
the jail system works to their detriment. They are not necessarily folks who need to be in jail for something they did. They need to be helped in a controlled situation, and those people need to be in a mental health facility. Now, the problem, so Ash asked a question, is the new place in Terrell, is it going to be 50-50 men and women, or do you see more women or more men in those situations?
And the clarification would be on the Terrell Center for Youth. It is really designed about 50-50.
Okay.
There is, in those placements are about 50-50, honestly,
We,
interestingly enough. On the 350 plus bed facility, it is designed, and I walked through those units. It's mainly going to be forensic placements. Now, that is music to every law enforcement's ear, because what we see in our backlog of people that need placements in a mental health hospital, we have over 2,000 waiting in our local jails that the local taxpayers are paying for, exactly what Sheriff Marr is talking about, waiting to get that forensic placement. There are longer placements. You want to get them able to stand trial. And so the majority of the Terrell beds are going to be forensic. We do have civil beds, the whole hospital, including the one in in Victoria is designed to be in Victoria. We have, I think it's split 50-50 on forensic and civil, but each one of those can flip the other way. So it's
Right.
designed that if the trend goes back to civil, what's civil? They haven't committed a crime, and so they're not sitting in the jail. I have a Justin Marr story to tell you. Sheriff Marr, when I was working on this plan, and in the back of my mind, I really was very focused on the Crossroads region getting a smaller mental health hospital. And with Lieutenant Governor Patrick, I was telling him, the rural areas, and we were very intentional about putting one in Amarillo, putting one in Lubbock, way out there. But I called Sheriff Marr, and he told me, he said, Senator, I literally have 2 men in my jail who have been waiting for restoration, mental health restoration, for 800 days.
Wow.
That was shocking to me. I mean, it was such an inspiration to me. And so the bottom line on that is it's important that all of us, when we go to Austin, we're talking to our local officials. And I'm super lucky. I work with Representative Louderback, and
He just checked in. He's on. He can hear you this morning. He just checked into
great,
the program.
super. He does a great job
Yes,
of
ma'am.
communicating. And one of the things that he and I were talking on the phone the other day, it was Friday evening. So if y'all wonder what we do out of session, we work around the clock. I was
That's
still
true.
at the office. I was still at the office at 7 o'clock, and he had pinged me on a text message, and I had to call him because I had a full day of meetings. And I called him and I said, I'm so sorry to bother you Friday evening. And he's like, no, there's no problem. We're working through some things. Representative Lauderback does a great job of communicating with his local officials. And I was telling him, I have this great group of state representatives that I'm working with from Fort Bend and Montgomery County. And keep in mind, I represent part of Harris County. So last week I was in Harris County, and all the way down to Rockport Fulton, and that would be Todd Hunter out of Corpus Christi and Aransas County. And so the communication is super important because we're working to get it done. You look at Texas A&M Victoria, something that I had actually Representative Jeannie Morrison started working on years ago, and it wasn't successful, and there were a lot of reasons for that. And I quietly kind of sat back in the background. And when I became your senator, it was one of the first meetings that I had was with Renew Couture. And I said, you're either going to make this a great, major university, or I'm taking it from you. We
Amen.
started off on we started off on pretty choppy grounds. And they worked at it until COVID. And then if you look at the numbers for Victoria at that university, they just became abysmal after COVID. And so, to her credit, she called me before the last session and said, it's time. We would work with y'all to relinquish that university, and we did. It was hard. It was really hard because nobody wants to have a non-performing university, and at the time it was. But A&M, so grateful to their leadership, their chairman of the board of trustees, Governor Patrick, Governor Abbott, and then a lot of local folks who came to Austin. I mean, that bill, I had not filed it yet because we were really struggling, and there were some local leaders that came, and we sat down with Greg Abbott. And he wanted more facts. They went back, and I looked at
Well,
them all
he's
and
a
said,
UT grad, The governor's
I
a Texas
know,
grad.
I know.
You
It was choppy, and I want to thank Representative Louderback because he was right there along the way, and that was hard. And so here's the thing, the message today is, people. I know it's 107 degrees outside. We moved our son into Baylor yesterday, and I looked at Jimmy, and literally the readout was 108 when we drove up. Right?
That had to hurt
And
as a TCU Horned Frog. It had to hurt to take
it,
Jake
you know,
to Baylor.
I've got to say this. He's been at Baylor a couple of years, and he's working on his master's, which I'm so happy for him to do. And I've got to tell y'all something. I was not for this until I realized, Baylor does something special. Their mission of a Christian university is impressive. It is impressive. So I do say sick 'em every once in a while.
There you
Okay.
go.
I will say sick 'em, but we were moving them in. It was hot. And, like everybody, and I posted about this yesterday about I do a Sunday scripture. And, I said, hey, look, I'm guilty of this, but, you can get in a bad mood because it's so hot. I want to tell you there's great things going on in the state of Texas right
Amen.
now. There are great things. And here's the hardest thing to say to everyone. If you look at that it was technically $3.321 billion. There's been some stuff added, so I rounded up to 3.5 billion, which is a lot of money. It is the people's money. And no, we did not borrow it. So we went out and we dedicated these monies. But if you look at, you can't say, okay, Victoria, you're going to have a 60-bed facility and it's here tomorrow. And I kept telling everyone, hey, guys, to my colleagues, and I'll say this in speeches, you can't get steel in the ground tomorrow. And so when we started that in 2023, by 2030, and right now, Terrell, we're going to dedicate it next summer, that 350 plus bed. We've had some wins with the Terrell Center for Youth. We've opened up the Austin State Hospital. There are some great things going on, and Texas A&M Victoria is one of them as well.
Yes, ma'am.
That university with their new leadership, their new president, is going to do great things. And former state senator Glenn Hager, we talk about Texas A&M Victoria. When he calls me, I don't want to disappoint all the Aggies, and you, Brent, with your anybody that went to Texas A&M. Where'd you go to school, Brent?
I went to Texas, so you can't disappoint me about the Aggies.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. But I don't talk to Glenn about Texas A&M in College Station. All I talk to Chancellor Hager about is Texas A&M Victoria, and we're focused on getting the class offerings. That's the one thing that I always tried to push University of Houston on was we need engineering degrees. We need degrees that meet the needs of the region with our petrochemical emphasis down there. There's so much exciting stuff going on, obviously, with AI. We're going to need allied health with this new mental health hospital opening up. So we are on the move, and there are a lot of great positive things happening in Texas. Great things don't happen overnight. We are moving the needle for Texans.
We had a conversation, Caden and I, that's the 18-year-old that's starting today at A&M Victoria. He had this is the beautiful thing about the size of Victoria, is that he's had a conversation with Christian Hardegree about, and she promised him, we're going to have engineering in Victoria, Texas. And he's, close with, I know, Ben Galvan and the folks at Civil Corp, and he thinks he wants to be a civil engineer, and he thinks that can come true right here in Victoria. And Glenn Hager's always been such a great friend to our region in general as comptrollers. In every role that he's had, I know he and Judge Zeller are very close. And we're very, very thrilled that he's involved. We believe, my family believes, that the folks that are in Shiner and Yoakum and Hallettsville, who would not have ever said, I'm going to go off to college in Victoria, may come now. And Dr. Hardegree has talked about a resurgence of the in-person classroom experience. College kids don't want to watch TV. They want to be in front of a prof.
Brent, you just hit the number one issue, okay?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Dr. Hardegree and I, we have sat down and had these meetings. That is what happened at the University of Houston, Victoria, was it had migrated away from those in-person classes. That is the number one focus. We're going to start delivering face-to-face, and that will bring kids to the campus, right?
That's right.
And it is super important for the future of Texas that our young people know how to interact face to face.
Amen.
So Dr. Hardegree is doing a wonderful job with that. And again, Rome was not built in a day.
I
This is a long, long journey, but we're going to slowly but surely make strides. And with uh, Representative Louderback, he and I will be working in the next session on securing the funds needed and any other tools that they need at the Texas A&M system to keep building Texas A&M Victoria. It's going to offer some things to the students. One of the things that Governor Abbott asked us to do in one of those meetings, where he's like, I don't know if, I don't know if I'm behind this move at first. He said it was a great challenge for us. He says, I want to know how many students within 100-mile radius of Victoria are leaving. Where are they going? And it's called leakage.
mm-hmm.
So some of our great community leaders came back to town and they did the research, one of them, which was Robbie Burge, the late Robbie Burge. And we were able to get that data. It was, there's so many kids that were leaving that were within 100 miles of Texas A&M Victoria, now
right.
Texas A&M Victoria. And so we're focusing on pulling those young people to the university. And any of your listeners, it's not just young people. You can be older and go back
That's
and
right.
get re-educated. I mean, I've always wanted to go back and finish my master's and do some things. And so don't think that Texas A&M Victoria is only for, young people. You can go back as well and get retrained or get a degree so that your job is better. And speaking of that, great things that are happening, Victoria College and the dedication we have this Wednesday. I'm going to be in town all day Wednesday, and looking forward to seeing a lot of great people while I'm in town and traveling. I think I'm going on further south the next day in the district, but spending time out there celebrating our victories, but also a number of important meetings that I have that day as well. As we both Representative Louderback and I are preparing for the 90th legislature,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
what bills we'll file and the monies that we need to secure for the area.
Well, two quick hits for you. One is I applaud you for always thinking about furthering your education. We've been very blessed in our community to have Dr. Jennifer Kent. She does a fantastic job at VC. But I want to throw out to you, ma'am, that I believe you probably have a PhD in common sense, conservatism, and service. And I think you write your dissertation every session, and we're very, very thrilled to have you on our team. Now, one plea I will make to you, the Wade and Carter favor of the day, as you get this mental health facility built here in our region, could you designate, there's only about 8 of them, but could you designate some rooms for our local Democrat population?
Well, I will tell you that there's a lot going on politically right now, and Trump derangement syndrome is TDS is running high right now, and I have to smile sometimes when I read tweets and different things, and boy, it makes you scratch your head a little bit, but
yes,
we're
ma'am.
going to get there. And I will tell you that nationally, that we're doing a lot of, President Trump and others are doing things that it's cleaning up the mess of the past. And he was willing to do some things that other presidents haven't been willing to do. And so while right now, there are challenges in Iran, I do believe our economy is on the verge of exploding again in a good way. And, we're going to stay the course. In Texas, I had a couple of events this weekend. I'm going to tell you this. I said, everyone's kind of complaining about like the results of growth and why are people moving here. I've met 2 people in 2 different speeches who came up to me. One moved from Alaska. She was an African-American lady, moved from Alaska, I said, why did you choose Texas? And she said, well, I was going to move to the lower 48, and I studied all lower 48. And I said, the only place to go is Texas.
Amen.
And another lady from North Carolina, and she is one of our veterans. She's young. She just left military service, and she and her husband moved from North Carolina. And I said, well, why did you move to Texas? You could have chosen any state. And she looked at me and she said, why wouldn't you move to Texas? And so some of the results of our freedom loving approach, now we're not perfect, and I think that we need to have more freedom loving and less restriction on businesses and different things, but other people are fleeing blue states to come to Texas.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have growing pains. We do have growing pains, but we're going to continue to work really hard, and a lot of positive things going on in Texas. We're leading the nation, that's for sure.
Well, I would tell you that AJ Lauterbach is a dear friend of mine personally, and Ash's as well. And he's also somebody who quite often comes on the program. We have a camera designated for Sheriff Lauterbach. And with all due respect, you're much easier on the eyes than the old chiseled sheriff.
Hey, where's my camera? Hold on a second.
We got one for you over here.
To get ahead of me.
I want you the next time you have time. And people don't understand. They think you guys work like 9 to noon and take 3 hours for lunch. I know that many days AJ will call me at 6 in the morning. I go, where are you going? I've got to run to Austin today for a meeting. And right. I know that you live the same schedule, the harried schedule. But if your time ever allows, we would love to have you in studio. The comments, go back later and read the comments on the Facebook feed. Your public here adores you, and we all agree that you're doing a fantastic job, not just for our district, but for Texas. And Ash and I often sit around, and I'm not going to put you on the spot at all, but we talk about what could be next. What is there a lieutenant governor run somewhere? Is there a governor run? So I think Governor Kolkhorst would be amazing. And,
I think Senator Kolkhorst is a good thing.
Amen.
I love working for the people of Victoria. Truly, my blessing,
amen,
has been to serve this Senate district. And I started before redistricting in 21. I still had Jackson County and still had Colorado County and Wharton County and Matagorda, and I had to give those up. One for growth, and another state senator needed some rural area, which has made her a better senator for sure. But I will say this, that I was and will never give up Victoria. I was like, nobody can touch that. And so many of the counties around there, it has been my blessing. It has enriched my life and my children's life. And so I'm going to leave you with one last story.
Yes,
okay?
ma'am.
So I don't know if you remember the movie The Sound of Freedom, right? And it was about trafficked children, right? It was a pretty tough movie. And this was about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. 2 years ago, I believe it was. And Lois Kate, our daughter, who's now 27, she was in town, and we went to the movie. And if anybody has again watched the movie The Sound of Freedom, it is gut-wrenching about children that are trafficked. And after the movie, we got in the pickup truck and we were driving home. We were 3 of us in silence. And she broke the silence. And she said, Mom, you're in a position to do something about this. Mm-hmm. You can make a difference. And, it pierced my heart in a good way. And that's what House Bill 109 was about with the Terrell Center for Youth. And so each of us has a role. Again, as I mentioned Matthew 25:40, when Jesus was telling them, truly the king will reply when the king comes back and says, whatever you did for one of the least brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
Amen.
So all the teachers out there doing great things with our students, and all of the folks in work, and sometimes it's just a smile and a hug for someone, right? But
100%.
we all, like Lois Kate says, we're all, and she said to me, Mom, you're in a position to do something about it. And so that is my inspiration to work and care for y'all, and to collaborate with each of you. And, we have meetings from elected officials to just citizens that want to voice what they're concerned about. And that's what we do. And we look forward to doing that. And I enjoy my friendship and partnership with State Representative Louderback and Judge Zeller and the county commissioners and the sheriff, and so many great folks in Victoria and the Crossroads region.
Well, we talk about it every day here, and all of those folks, Ben and Justin, they're all regulars on the program. I just want to share with you that we are so blessed in our region to have unfettered access to so many of our elected officials, and you, ma'am, certainly fill the bill. We've reached the top of the hour and probably need to wrap today up, but you are more than welcome. You're invited anytime you're in the region. We would love to have you come by, and I'll reach out to Andrea. We'll make it work. But I just appreciate your time this morning. Your insights are amazing, and we wish you Godspeed. Just be safe and know that we care about you in Victoria, Texas. And thank you for all you're doing.
I'll see y'all Wednesday.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
bet.
You'll see us Wednesday.
Thanks so much.
You be
All right.
well. Yes, ma'am.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's our great state senator, Lois Kolkhorst, and that is the top of the hour. Ash is, I just put him into the green room. I hope you guys have a great day, and man, God bless Texas. Bye-bye, folks.